The story begins with a portal opening in the middle of the sky, and, with it, destruction reached the city and the world, which would later be called the Demon Realm, since fierce and cruel monsters appeared from the portal. After that, some people awakened as hunters, and the beings who awakened mana gained special abilities. And thanks to these hunters, humanity was finally able to fight back. Because of this, over time, the cities were rebuilt, and although many problems still remained, at least some managed to live a normal life. But this was not common, since monsters kept attacking, and to contain the constant threat of them appearing non-stop, the number of hunters who naturally awakened was very small. Because of this, humanity had the idea of creating nothing less than artificial life. This creation was called Chimera Hunter, which had devastating explosive power. The experimental materials included the bodies of prisoners on death row or animals. There were also minerals extracted from inside the portals and demonic cells. This was all of humanity's effort to survive, which eventually enabled the mass production of chimera hunters. This was called the ideal combination between science and the hunter community, which drastically reduced people's mortality and saved countless lives. Thus, the world seemed to be, little by little, recovering its former shape. Decades later, in the middle of the night, in an illegal laboratory of chimera research, two scientists were walking, and one of them was relieved since he would only need to check one more person before they could go home. Upon getting closer, the man realizes that the experiment is number 17, and therefore asks to stay away. The scientist says it's fine, since the experiment has a damaged brain, so it won't move without orders. They point to the chimera, telling it to show the right arm, since it is destroyed as a side effect of the experiment. In addition, the scientist asks why he is so afraid, since the person in monster form can barely see. They decide to leave, since that chimera will be discarded anyway, and with that number, 17 remains quiet inside its cage. After that, inside the laboratory director's office, the scientists report that number 17 is useless since the body is damaged and, in fact, if it were anyone else, it would have already died. The director asks how much time is left, and he replies that at most a month. The director thought it was a pity and ordered to put the chimera in the portal, blocking operations so that it would take care of the rear guard, but not to program the return command since it would be discarded. The next day, in the Demon Realm, in the Rocky Mountain region, a monster charges with everything towards number 17, who only prepares its claws upon seeing the enemy approaching, and, with several simultaneous attacks, cuts the monster into several pieces. Then another colossal monster appears, but he only stomps hard on the ground and flies into the sky with his super jump, immediately obliterating the monster without giving it a chance to react. Other monsters begin to appear and attack, but number 17 always counterattacks first, destroying everything in front of him until a whole devastated field is formed. A nearby awakened finds it incredible how powerful the chimera is, and Luan agrees, since only an S-rank chimera hunter would be able to annihilate so many monsters with a single attack. Then he looks back and comments that there is no sign that the portal will close, and yet 3 days have already passed. The leader asks not to worry, since as long as they have an S-rank chimera hunter on their side, they can resist indefinitely. Then he prepares his sword and cuts down the monsters that were approaching, since they still need to deal with the leftovers. At this moment, the portal begins to act strangely, and Luan shouts that the signal of the red portal's disappearance has been confirmed. The leader says it's over and shouts for everyone to retreat through the portal. Meanwhile, number 17 continues fighting the monsters, and, while everyone flees, Beatrice asks if they will not take the chimera with them. The leader orders to leave him behind since they did not receive orders to bring him back. She asks if he is sure since it will be costly, and he only replies that the scientists said the lifespan of number 17 was already over anyway. She confesses that she feels a little bad, since if it weren't for him, the damage would have been much greater, and the leader questions why worry for nothing since the chimeras are practically inorganic. Basically, they are beings that only follow the orders of their masters. Number 17 is bitten on the arm, but continues to fight bravely since his mission is to protect the hunter's rear guard. And even while being attacked by bizarre monsters, he prepares himself and destroys everything around him with his powerful strength. After slaughtering the monsters and even losing a hand, he believes in his mind that the mission was complete. However, when thinking of returning, Command informs that it is not allowed. On this day, the results of the mission of the Chimera Hunter number 17, who met his end, had as outcome the death of 0 hunters and a total of 1823 monsters slain. At the moment of his death, in his mind, his unrecorded past vaguely emerges, and the fact that one day was a full year, and that he was kidnapped at 9 years old surfaced in his head as memories. A panorama of his life passed before his eyes, and unfortunately, the damaged brain could not properly understand the meaning of those scenes. He only calmly watched everything and his past life 79 years ago in the orphanage of District 13. He was just a child who didn't even have a name. 70 years ago, his caretaker questioned why he had hit a friend with a stone. Because of this, he was expelled from the orphanage, even though the outside was absurdly cold because of the snow. He reached the point of collapsing on the ground exhausted, and several boys witnessed it, and in their minds, they only wondered how much a child would be worth. After that, he was already imprisoned in a forest, and the scientist only asked if it was a new experimental subject. They discussed that he was number 17, and that he was probably under a spell to prevent escape. One of the scientists ordered to register that number 17 would receive an injection of SS-class silkworm larva cells. After this application, they decided they would wait to see the reaction. Sometime later, they were incredulous since there were no side effects, including a special ability that appeared while the human form and ego were maintained. They decided they would continue implanting various things until some reaction appeared. 64 years ago, number 17 was prepared to defeat a beast in front of him, and with his blast of power, eliminated everything, even creating a trail of destruction. A woman near the place only thanked him for saving her, and one of the hunters apologized to the MC for putting all that weight on a child. 59 years ago, he was paralyzed in front of the defeated monsters, trying to understand why he was there and what he had been doing moments before. At that moment, a scientist seemed to question why he had stopped and whether perhaps his memory was confused. Then he began laughing like a madman since finally the side effects had begun to appear. 54 years ago, the scientist was making his notes. Since the result of the implantation of more than 500 types of monster cells over 15 years made the boy become an almost immeasurable S-rank hunter, and they concluded that number 17 was the greatest success of the laboratory. 20 years ago, a girl gave a piece of meat to number 17, who already in his monster form devoured it instantly. She warned everyone that she was sure number 17 would eat it, but they found the scene disgusting. 3 days ago, the MC was battling against all 1,800 monsters from the portal until finally giving in since all his missions had been completed, and he found himself in the midst of all the destruction he had caused to protect the hunters. His spine, which was on the ground, began to emit an intense glow and react in an unexpected way. With a total of 527 types of monster cells implanted, Chimera Hunter number 17 was taking a new form, and after another intense glow formed from his new body, he finally appeared in his human form, questioning what had happened and if by any chance he was human again. He kept observing his arm with claws and realized he still had abilities from the monster cells in his body and therefore could not say he was completely human. Then he realized that a lot of time had passed, and since the laboratory had not come to get him, he confirmed he had been discarded. He also noticed that the experiment number on his post had disappeared, and that must mean he would no longer need to be involved with the research. He reflected that his body becoming like this must be the ability of an immortal type that can revive up to 3 times as long as its core is not destroyed, but that left him confused since, as far as they had said, human and immortal cells could not fuse. Even so, he did not care about that, because what mattered was that his body was completely recovered at its peak. The MC considered that after his body went through several side effects from the experiments, maybe it was now in ideal condition, and he remembered that since the effects began, his head always seemed surrounded by a haze, in addition to all the spells the scientists had engraved to prevent escape or rebellion. So, if his life as number 17 had come to an end, he could probably live as a simple human. He remembered a conversation with the orphanage director, who told him to try to live helping people consciously since he had a strange body, and if he helped 1,000 people, it would be a good path. The man asked if Dawoon understood. He smiled at the memory and thought it was nonsense, since there was no way an orphan from the slums could help other people. He reflected on what he should do from that moment on, maybe something like revenge. But even revenge would need a target before him, and all he imagined was that so much time had passed that his desire for revenge no longer burned like before. To make matters worse, it was not possible to go to the human world at that moment. He knew that one day he would find those responsible for the experiments, but he would leave that for when the time came. Only then did he look down and realize he was naked, so he shouted that he had decided. At that moment, he would live a little as a human. Then he walked away trying to remember the last time he wore clothes, since he had been a monster. After walking for a while, he arrived at a forest and started thinking about what materials his clothes should be made of to be resistant, until something caught his attention. He noticed there was a slain monster. He wondered if there had been some territorial fight and believed that the fallen monster must have been strong since it had no serious injuries. Concluding that it had probably died of poisoning, he prepared his hand, since he was after leather, and upon concentrating, he noticed his arm had changed shape, creating a blade to make what he was about to do easier. He also remembered learning in the laboratory that he should first cut the belly and then make the cuts in the other body parts. Dawoon began to cut slowly, and, at the same moment, a strong jet of poison came out of the body, revealing an extremely poisonous aura. However, his body suffered no damage, and all he noticed was that the body had a different smell. He finally finished and thought it was incredible for a first attempt. Then he placed the leather in the river and got frustrated, since for a moment he thought it was soft, but it was tougher than normal. Maybe because it was from a monster. Because of that, he had an idea and began punching the leather in all directions without stopping, believing that something like that would work. After some time, he realized it had finally become soft and began calculating only if the size was right or not. Suddenly, a flame began to burn on the head of the monster that had already been finished, and it woke up out of nowhere while the MC was still adjusting the leather. Dawoon then made a hole with his hand and put on his clothes, which were finally perfect to use. Only then did he realize the poison had not completely left the clothes, and he turned around, since he had been hearing noises, unable to believe the monster was not dead. So, he gets startled since the fallen bird is shaking its head as if it were understanding what he was saying. The MC becomes thoughtful about this since apparently the monster is the immortal type, and he knows that if it were before, he would have killed it without hesitation, since the opponent is weak and doesn't even pose a threat, so he doesn't think it is necessary to kill it. He smiles, saying that both are lucky for having received a second chance, and because of that, he thinks they should take advantage of it. He walks away while saying that if fate allows, they will meet again somewhere else. After some time walking, he enters a cave and considers that he needs a house, since the issue with clothes is already solved. Suddenly, a crack begins to appear, and a colossal monster emerges in front of him, preparing to devour him. Dawoon simply comments that it is too dark and, with a slight movement, cuts off the monster's head, walking away calmly as if nothing had happened. After some time walking, it begins to snow, and he defeats the monsters he encounters along the way as if they were nothing. Only then does he find some mushrooms and, by the smell, realizes they are poisonous. In another place, he finds it too damp and rejects it, as well as another that is too hot and also rejected by the MC. After a while, he reaches a cliff and finds the landscape beautiful, even reflecting that he never thought he would find the demon realm so beautiful. He jumps from the cliff, landing calmly on the ground, since he is determined to explore more, and when looking to the side, he notices that the water is clean and there are still some fish, but soon sees that they are piranha monsters, although he still finds them delicious, since if he catches them to roast, it will feel like a camp. He reflects that in that place there is a natural fish farm, and because of that, it might be interesting to build a house to live right there. After all, it is a place full of flowers and with clean air, and, smiling, he says that he approved it as Dawoon's house. At the same time, in another place, a portal appears out of nowhere, and something jumps out of it, causing destruction on the ground. It is a robot that, when looking to the side, asks if it is in the demon realm. He decides that first he needs a place to build the house, and, with a simple finger movement, shoots a gust of wind that cuts several trees as if they were butter. He approaches the logs and begins to tie them with his powers, needing to separate the wood in good condition. After gathering a sufficient amount, he comments that the ground is too uneven, so once again, he moves his arm and another gust of wind comes out, destroying everything and leveling the area. All he needed to do so far was move his hands and feet the way his heart guided him. Then, he goes to the logs and lifts one with his arm as if it were a straw. He continues working, finding it fun, and it will be his first time building his own house. He proceeds to the stage of placing the planks on the floor and decides that for the walls, he will use monster mucus, since he doesn't have any nails. Dawoon begins spreading the slime, because once hardened, it will be solid like stone, and he wonders if it will also be waterproof. His next step is to go for the finishing touches, and, looking up, he says that the monsters won't even try to get close, since in reality, his house looked creepy, made with snail-type monster mucus, silk from silkworm cocoons, and all kinds of weirdness. But the important thing is that he found it very comfortable. On the other hand, his mind keeps hammering, since he is a little disappointed, as if something were missing, and he tries to remember what a house where people live is like. He recalls when he was little, and the scientist showed on a projector what a typical house was like before the gates opened. In the videos he saw in the laboratory, he noticed that many things grew in the garden. He knows he can't raise a dog in the demon realm, and considers whether he should start with a vegetable garden, but he doesn't know what he could plant in that world. Only then does he have an idea, remembering that there is a snowy mountain nearby, and, because of that, he can plant some mandrakes. He walks again in the snow, since he knows that the habitat of the mandrakes is around the peak of the snowy mountain, where demonic energy is very strong and in fact is spreading a lot. Because of this, he becomes thoughtful, since on the day he was taken by the laboratory, it also snowed heavily and he was lying on the ground very cold, to the point of even thinking that being kidnapped would be something good. He tries to see the good side of having become a chimera, since it had its advantages, as he does not need to worry about dying of hunger or cold, and after walking for a while, he notices that the demonic energy became strong enough for him to know that he had reached the place he was looking for, in addition to noticing that the snow began to stop. He soon spots the plants and feels happy since he did not waste his trip. These mandrakes are extremely sensitive to stress, like a sunfish-type monster, and they can die even from small environmental changes. He crouches, imagining how he will move them since they are not that adaptable. He pulls one of them from the ground, aware that it would be better to cover his own ears, but finds it strange since the mandrake seems to be sleeping. He decides to look more closely and starts pulling out other mandrakes, and all of them make a strange noise, realizing then that in fact, they are talking while sleeping. The MC knows that the famous mandrake scream is a phenomenon caused by humans cultivating mandrakes artificially, and that, in the human world, where demonic energy is scarce, when these plants are under stress, they let out a thunderous scream when forced to leave the ground, even killing people. He notices that the mandrakes he picked up did not scream, and maybe it is because of the demonic realm, but he does not understand why they are not resisting, since they should be fighting to free themselves. Only then does an idea cross his mind, as if they recognized him as a companion creature, since his own body also contains mandrake cells. He picks up some, finding it interesting that they do not scream, since it will be less stressful, and he even imagines asking them for some roots to make tea, but only when they grow. He also reflects that he heard that pulling them out by force is extremely poisonous, and maybe he should persuade them carefully. After finishing, he looks around since there are probably hunters in the region, although he does not know why they are in the snowy mountains, but he decides that he will take the gate stones. At the same time, some hunters were injured since several monsters were attacking constantly with their frightening mouths. One of the hunters activates his shield magic but begins to worry since little by little his wall is breaking. His eyes fill with tears because instead of doing what he always does, he went out in search of the chimera. And the moment his shield broke, he screamed loudly, begging for someone to help him. At this moment, a light appears in the sky, and something hits the ground with full force, drawing the attention of all the monsters. The hunters notice a silhouette in the smoke and ask if by any chance it is a person. The MC realizes they are snow rabbits, and that it had been a while since he had seen one. In contrast, in the monster's view, Dawoon was a completely terrifying creature, and because of this, they fled desperately in fear. The hunters, seeing this, cannot believe what they witnessed, since B-rank monsters ran away when looking at a human. The two introduce themselves, and Taehoon asks the MC's name. He answers, and the hunter becomes confused since he had never heard the name Dawoon, in addition to not recognizing the clothes. Then the MC questions why they are in the mountains, since both seem to be D-rank hunters, and the mountains are dangerous. They answer that they are only after money since they received a mission to capture a chimera, and the reward is high. Hearing this surprises the MC, since he himself was a chimera. Taehoon goes on to say that a test subject escaped from the laboratory, and it is a mechanical creature that jumped into the portal while fleeing. The MC hears this, and already deduces that they are not referring to himself, since he is a mechanical creature, and even thinks it is better to take the portal stone in order to leave. Then he asks where the luggage of the two is, and if by any chance they teleported from the demonic world with nothing. They respond that their damned colleagues took everything, and, frustrated, he begins to consider that they had planned this from the beginning. After all, the hunters took all the backpacks and fled, while the two were busy fighting the rabbit monsters. Dawoon imagines that the stone gate must be with those hunters who stole the bags. Taehoon asks for permission and questions if by any chance there are plans to return, since they are at their limit, and also asks if he knows what happens if they become contaminated with demonic energy. In that world, the time a hunter can endure in the demonic realm varies according to his class, and if they do not return to the human world in time to purify themselves, the destiny is death. And obviously, this does not apply to the MC. While the two continued their explanations, the MC senses something, immediately jumps in the opposite direction, and all the two can do is watch Dawoon practically flying with his super jump. Near the place, the chimera robot is standing at the top of a cliff. At that moment, several hunters appear shouting to capture it, since all they need to do is attack at once. The robot senses the danger signal and turns, warning that all will be eliminated, and prepares for combat as several hunters are attacking at the same time. Upon arriving at the scene, the MC wonders if he has arrived too late, since a massacre had been carried out in front of him, and he deduces that the hunters fled. He notices that people even left their luggage behind, as well as footprints of children and animals. He is in doubt if the chimera fought by changing form. After all, moments earlier the hunter had said that a subject had escaped from the laboratory and was a mechanical creature that used a portal to escape. He imagines that it is made of liquid metal, so it can freely change form, but since the material is rare, they made the chimera small, so it would be like a child or a large dog. He smiles imagining all this, since the mechanical creature could be someone incredible, as it managed to defeat 5 B-rank hunters alone. Meanwhile, Taehoon tried at all costs to wake up his friend, who said there was nothing else he could do since his entire body had been contaminated with demonic energy. His colleague asked him not to give up, since the man needed to see the birth of his child, which would be in the following month. However, badly injured, he only said to give a message to his wife that he loved her very much. But crying, Taehoon continued asking him to hold on just a little longer, since miracles still exist. At that moment, someone approaches, and the hunter is startled when he looks to the side, as it was Dawoon carrying their luggage. Immediately, he runs and kneels before the MC, begging for help in that critical moment. The MC realizes that he had said he did not have a portal stone, and the kneeling hunter, seeing no other alternatives, offers 2 checks of 10 million, which is all they have in life, and therefore begs him to sell just 1 portal stone, because if they do not escape soon, they will die. Dawoon looks at that amount of 20 million and reflects that he has no use for it at that moment, but knows he will need it when he goes to the human world. Because of this, he takes the stone and hands it to the hunter, making the portal open. Taehoon thanks him from the bottom of his heart, assuring that he will never forget the favor for the rest of his life. The MC looks at the money and, while the two are passing by, he asks if by any chance the stones do not cost 200,000 in the human world. Taehoon, carrying his friend, replies that in that era they are costing 1 million. Dawoon then extends his hand, saying that he has received too much, and, after placing it on the poisoned hunter, states that he will do something about it as change for the exorbitant value he gained. At that moment, it starts to overflow around them, and Taehoon gets scared wondering if he is injecting mana into Seongju, but soon he worries since he is aware that injecting mana is something that even rank A hunters avoid doing, because if the manas enter into conflict and get entangled, the mana core breaks and both die. However, the next second his friend seems healed, saying that the demonic energy was purified. Immediately, he runs to Taehoon to hug him since they managed to survive, and then he bows to the MC, thanking him from the bottom of his heart and saying that he will never forget that heroic act. Taehoon, however, does not hide his frightened face, as he just witnessed someone purifying demonic energy simply by injecting mana, and that should be impossible without an exorbitant amount of power, which makes him even more intrigued to know who Dawoon is. After all this, the MC returns to his house, and upon seeing it feels happy since no intruder appeared. Besides having gained unexpected income, he looks down and notices that the mandrakes have woken up, and also that their leaves have started to wither. Immediately, he plants them back in the soil thinking it will be enough, but realizes that they all look sad and dissatisfied. He does not understand what he might have done wrong, and imagines that perhaps it is because he forcibly took them from the place where the mandrakes lived, or maybe they are hungry after being transplanted without soil. He decides to use his power to provide a little mana, and at that very instant the mandrakes are filled with happiness, also making the MC glad that it worked. Then he notices the presence of someone nearby and immediately knows that it is the robot that the hunters are chasing. Without knowing what interest the creature might have in him, he stores the money in case he needs it later and starts organizing the luggage he carried with him. The first item he found was a portable stove and kitchen utensils, which are essential for cooking outdoors. There are also 8 portal stones to travel between realms, spare clothes contaminated with pollen that need washing, 2 sleeping bags and blankets for a warm rest. The MC realizes that the hunters were well prepared and that he was the one who got really lucky. Then, he also notices that there is ramen among the items and tries to remember the last time he ate, back when he was still a child in the orphanage. And since he is hungry, he decides he will cook. The first step of the recipe is to put 500 milliliters of water. He is unsure if he should measure by weight. At that moment, the lake water starts bubbling and several piranha monsters come out to attack him. Dawoon prepares his finger since he is aware that people add some extra things when preparing ramen, and so he kills the fish, since it will be a delicious side dish. The second step is to add ingredients such as eggs and green onions to improve the flavor, and he believes that some roe should work in place of the eggs. However, he is aware that in that region there are no green onions and believes that putting something similar to leaves should work. He puts all the ingredients inside a pot and gets ready to go to the next step. At that moment, the chimera starts approaching and its stomach is growling since it sees a human cooking. The MC lights the stove and imagines that the instructions do not say when to put the fish in, so he decides to cook everything together. The smell of the food starts spreading through the place and even scares the mandrakes with such stench, as well as Dawoon, who did not remember the smell being so strong. The odor spreads through the forest until it reaches the robot, which starts drooling at the smell of the food. He starts approaching since he also wants to eat and uses one of his transformations, turning into a cute puppy, since as far as he knows, humans help when they feel pity. He approaches and Dawoon immediately realizes that it is the mechanical creature that followed him there, and wonders if the robot purposely transformed into a dog to make him lower his guard, and is even pretending to be hurt to arouse pity. He looks closely at the dog and does not understand how the creature managed to escape from the laboratory and even reach the demon realm. He warns that everything is ready and asks if he wants a little. The dog, happy, just barks and both keep looking at the pot and, even though the appearance is scary, he wonders if he should try to eat or not. Anyway, the two sit at the table to eat, and the dog, starving, starts eating non-stop. The MC does the same, and realizes that the taste brings memories of when he was little and enjoyed the food of that time. Then, smiling, he concludes that the taste is the same as in the past. The strong smell overflowed throughout the region, making even the mandrakes vomit. After that, The MC tells the dog to go away since he has eaten, and he himself needs to tidy things up. Then, as he leaves, the dog starts limping again, and he laughs, pointing out that he was limping with his left foot and not with the right one. The dog goes into shock since he hadn't noticed that and goes back to limping with the correct paw. The MC goes near a waterfall and, while working, imagines that he has finished washing the dishes, so it is time to take care of the clothes. Since he does not have good memories with flower pollen, he could not live forever wearing leather clothes. He knows that if he rubs the clothes too hard, they could tear, so he needs to wash them carefully. However, with a simple strike using a stick, the stone explodes in all directions along with the clothes, with the immense force he possesses. He leaves there frustrated but relieved to still have another set left. Moreover, he notices something, since the mechanical creature simply decided to turn into a stone, and he does not understand why it continues around the area. Dawoon remembers that even when he was eating instant noodles and washing dishes, the chimera was nearby. The same goes for when he was looking at a flower resembling a forsythia, which was when the mechanical creature approached, changing form without doing anything else. At that moment, a bee flew past the robot, which immediately ran away, shouting that he hates insects, implying that he must have a mental age of less than 5 years. The chimera was furious, trying to kill the bee until it realizes that the MC was watching it since its disguise disappeared. Dawoon notices this and begins to pretend as if he did not notice her presence, and the robot walks away, needing to hide. The MC finally manages to wash his clothes and finds it more difficult than he imagined, but somehow he finishes. He finds the clothes small, but decides to leave them hanging for now, as he will check on the mandrakes. At that moment, the chimera realizes that Dawoon left and immediately runs to the clothes on the line and puts them on, since if a human is wearing them, then she should wear them too. The robot is happy, as she now also has clothes and transforms, growing long hair and even hands, as her human form is now perfect. Meanwhile, the MC is checking on the mandrakes and does not understand why the leaves keep wilting and the roots also seem dry. He begins to find it strange, since he removed all the weeds when preparing the field, and with his wood, he removes a bunch of monsters that were under the soil, as they were making the mandrakes sad, and he realizes that if he had ground everything properly from the start, this problem would not have occurred. Dawoon gets up and decides to make a proper garden until he sees a child in front of him saying hello. The MC is startled, as this time the robot has turned into a girl, and it seems she is ready to talk, so he responds to the greeting. She asks if, by any chance, the house is his, and Dawoon proudly answers yes. The little girl's eyes start to shine, asking if he is from that region, and the MC wonders if he should tease her a little and asks which tribe she belongs to. The chimera is confused by the question and, not knowing what to say, replies that she lives behind the waterfall far from that place and that she traveled a long way, so he would not know where it is. Dawoon finds this interesting and comments that if it is in the direction of the waterfall, she probably belongs to the coconut tribe. She immediately confirms that she is from the coconut tribe, but he questions her clothes, as they are the same as his, which are from another tribe. The robot retorts that their tribal rule is that whoever takes it keeps the clothes, so the clothes belong to her. He replies that it is not a problem, and she feels relieved. Then the MC asks why someone from the coconut tribe is in that region. She replies that she was expelled from the tribe and is there to ask for a favor, and, crouching, shouts that she wants to live with him if he allows it. He asks if she is sure, and, embarrassed, she says that there are no insects in this region and that there is a house, so she believes it is safe. Dawoon sighs, as he imagined the little girl needed a place to rest, and therefore he responds that it is fine, but warns that she will need to help with the chores. Her eyes start to shine with joy, and she says that she will help with everything he asks. He starts saying he was going to help prepare the garden soil, since he will build a new house for the mandrakes. She grabs the piece of wood, intending to help, and starts destroying all the soil with her absurd strength. The MC just watches, finding it funny that the girl doesn't even hide her true identity, and believes that, having lived all the time in a laboratory, she doesn't know what it's like to be a normal child. At that moment, she is startled when the MC introduces himself and asks her name. She starts imagining that she doesn't have one and needs to invent something, like the beautiful flower she saw earlier, and without thinking twice replies that her name is Nari. He jokes, asking if she is sure about that, and, enraged, she responds that she obviously is sure of her own name. After that, the garden is ready, and he praises her for finishing quickly, and also notices that the mandrakes are much happier. At that moment, he notices something strange and asks why she is crying. Nari replies that the mandrakes remind her of her friends. He is confused hearing this, as far as he knows, something like that cannot exist in a research laboratory. At that moment, something catches her attention, as a loud noise is emitted throughout the forest, and it makes her fall face down to the ground in fear. Dawoon tells her not to worry, since it's just the sound of monsters hunting each other, and she says that before arriving at that house, she saw a monster that looked like a little chick and believes that several monsters are attacking it. The MC says that's exactly how it seems. She, still trembling, says that the little chick is probably hurt from being bitten, and he replies that it will likely be devoured soon, since that is the demon's realm, and therefore asks if she by any chance wants to save this monster. Nari, feeling a strong headache, says she cannot save the monster. The MC crouches, wondering if he should help a little in a way that doesn't seem like an order, and says that if she helps the monster it might survive, asking if she wants to go see. She thinks about it and suddenly jumps high, saying she will return soon. At the same time, several monsters are attacking the little chick, and at that moment, she arrives flying, ordering them to stop hurting an innocent creature. With tears in her eyes, she promises to save it. This makes her recall the time she was in the laboratory, asking the other monsters why a robot had finished first in a ranked match. And, with the way things are, they will end up being used as experiments if something goes wrong. This made everyone revolt to the point of starting to kick her, since they also want a chance to live, and she only asks them to stop, as she only did what she was ordered to do. Remembering this makes her even angrier, to the point of attacking, shouting not to be cruel to someone just because of numbers, and with a devastating punch, obliterates the monster instantly. Meanwhile, Dawoon is tending his garden until Nari arrives, but she is crying, asking what she should do since the creature isn't improving at all. He tells her to calm down, but is soon startled when he sees what type of monster it is, having the feeling he has seen it somewhere before. She continues screaming desperately, not understanding why the creature isn't waking up, and asks if it is dying. He asks to take a look and, extending his hand, realizes that luckily, the monster has no serious injuries. He knows that each monster's energy carries a story, and therefore recognizes it as the same monster, since the energy is identical. He becomes thoughtful about this, not understanding why the creature became small, and wonders if it is a type that recovers differently than him. Nari, still worried, asks if the creature is really dying, but he reassures her, saying that the creature is just hungry and probably became too small to get food on its own, and also asks her not to worry, since he gave a bit of mana and it will heal on its own, leaving the creature calm. This makes her remember the past once again, when her doll was destroyed, so looking at the creature, she comments that it is all soft like a rice cake, and therefore asks if she can take care of it, promising that she will take proper care of it, as well as train it to feed itself. Dawoon is pleased to see her concern, but warns that the monster will grow a lot, and that, anyway, she can do whatever she wants. Nari fills with joy, asking if it's really serious, and he replies that it is, since, after all, that monster can protect their yard. Suddenly, the monster begins to wake up and, when looking ahead, immediately recognizes the MC as the one responsible for having skinned him at another time. After fully waking up, he is confused, not knowing where he is, and starts trying to escape at all costs, since he doesn't understand why he is in the hands of a little girl in the demon world. Meanwhile, Nari is extremely happy since the creature is alive, and the MC, seeing that, is confused as he understands perfectly what the monster is saying, like asking to be let out of there. After that, Nari finishes bandaging him and announces that she has chosen a name for the creature. However, the demonic pigeon is angry, ordering the idiots to release him. She celebrates since she chose the name Gu because he looks like a pigeon. Dawoon says he liked the name, but Gu stands up furious, questioning how a mere human dares to name him, since he already has a name. However, before finishing speaking, she throws a pot of water on him, thinking he was thirsty. She is confused about why the pigeon became fat and asks what they should do. Gu, full of water, only asks her not to give him any more water, even though she doesn't understand anything he says. The MC, understanding everything, realizes that Nari doesn't understand these things and therefore tells her to stop giving water since the creature is full. She panics, believing that the monster is hungry and will look for food. Meanwhile, Dawoon prepares some wood as he wants to build a shelf to store some things. He starts his work, believing the size is enough, but when he applies the minimum force, the log breaks and he doesn't understand what went wrong, since he did it the same way as the table and chairs. Gu, watching from afar, says that the wood is a different color and tells him to take the log in front since it is soft wood. The MC asks if it has to do with the wood's resistance, since it seems to vary according to the type. The creature replies that it's obvious and asks if he didn't know. He says no and asks which color of wood is the most resistant. The pigeon says that obviously it is red, and only then realizes if the human in front of him is managing to understand him, and the MC just says that he found it interesting to know that red is the right color. Gu does not accept what is happening and decides to check Dawoon's mind and use his mental reading, but he is completely blocked by an almost divine pressure. The MC, without even doing anything, says that he searched everywhere but couldn't find a red wood. The creature feels cornered, since his mental reading was blocked instantly, but that's not even what scares him the most. And so he asks if he can really hear him. The MC says it's more than that, since he can hear even his thoughts as if they were human words, and questions how the heck a monster understands what humans talk about. Gu is embarrassed about that, and the MC quickly deduces that this is a rare and intelligent monster, and that he himself had only heard of one but had never met one. Then he says that they have already met, and the monster replies that yes, and that he even wanted to see him again. Dawoon asks why, and Gu replies that it is because the MC saved him, and because of that act, he promised himself that if he met him again, he would help him as he could. Dawoon imagines that the poison was eliminated along with the hide, so the monster's core remains intact. And since he heard that Gu wants to help him, he asks if he could help right then. The monster, knowing what it's about, frees himself from the bindings and says he will take him to where the high-quality red wood grows. Meanwhile, the forest is on fire, and Nari appears running, crying, since she doesn't want to return to the laboratory. The explosions continue until she is thrown to the ground, and she panics, imagining that the people there are from the laboratory and want to capture her, not knowing what to do since she hates fire. The hunter doing this is using his tracker and admits to being surprised, since a mechanical creature can really change shape with ease. And he also says he doesn't feel right attacking something that looks like a child. He prepares his ability once again while signaling for her to understand, since for him, it is a matter of life or death, and he fires his fire blast without mercy, shouting that it's the end of her. Nari just continues crying, frozen with fear of fire, and the next second the MC appears blocking the attack along with Gu, who, with furious eyes, apologizes to Dawoon, saying he will find out another time where the redwood is, since his priority is to save the child, and the MC agrees with this. He realizes she is terrified of fire, as she doesn't seem okay, even though she is strong, and therefore asks to put out the fire first. Gu agrees, and even asks how anyone could have the courage to hurt a child. The hunter asks what the hell is going on, since a man is acting like he's from the caves, and asks if he is also after the mechanical creature, and being pressed for time, he tells him to leave while still being polite. Dawoon tells him to shut up since he talks too much, which makes the guy furious, as he is ruining his whole plan, and so he attacks with all his hell flames. The MC raises a single finger and fires a powerful flash that hits the mountain dead on, causing a landslide heading toward the hunter, who is left completely confused. After things settle, the MC asks if she is okay, and Nari gets up, trying to understand what happened. Dawoon looks at the body on the ground and tells the little girl to knock out without fear when in trouble. He grabs the hunter's hair and warns that when the man wakes up, she should knock him out again, then pulls him out of the earth. However, only the hair comes out, and the MC is left baffled until he sees that the knocked out guy is actually a disguised bald man. They look down, and when focusing on the citizen's bald head, Nari bursts into laughter, finding the bald head funny, and admits she's no longer scared after seeing the billiard ball-like head. The MC stares at her and remembers stepping in front to block the attack, unsure if the girl would have been defeated, since in his mind, that would be impossible. Gu asks to leave things with him so he can understand what happened, as over the years, his mental reading will allow him to access other people's memories and also share visions with others. A scientist was laughing and with a macabre smile was watching a slime, commenting that the monster has probably gained a good amount of self-awareness since it is avoiding him. He raises his hand and tells him not to be afraid, since the endurance test was a success. With that, they return to reality, and Do-woon has his hand on the girl, imagining that the trauma will fade easily and that at least they have taken a step forward. Then he asks what should be done with the little bald man. Nari gets excited and says she has an idea. She ties a rope at the top of the waterfall and leaves the man hanging. She keeps laughing, knowing someone who uses fire will easily be extinguished when wet, and calls him Uncle Bald. The man is annoyed, as he didn't come to the demon realm to go through this. She continues mocking the hunter's lack of hair, and the MC steps in, saying people shouldn't be judged so harshly by their appearance. But he soon realizes she is really upset about it and hopes she calms down as soon as possible. He goes to the river, and Gu asks what he is doing. He responds that he is just getting water for the ramen. At that moment, Nari appears, excitedly saying that the MC's fish ramen is amazing. He finds it funny and asks if the Coco tribe even eats fish ramen. She realizes the mistake she made and responds that the tribe also likes instant noodles. Meanwhile, atop the waterfall, the hunter reflects, since in his mind, the MC is at least a rank A hunter or even higher. However, he finds something strange, as a reclusive hunter who operates in the shadows is unusual, especially for hanging someone and then eating ramen, even in the demon realm, which he considers excessive. At that moment, Nari appears after catching 2 fish in the river and immediately puts them in the pot to speed up the preparation. The hunter, indignant, looks at the absurd amount of water in the pot and wonders if the MC really knows how to make ramen. Because of this, out of nowhere, the hunter lets out a loud shout asking to wait. He then says that if released, he could prepare a delicious ramen for everyone. The MC decides to accept, and the hunter prepares to make the food. He opens the ramen package and begins to shake like a green stick, knowing his life depends on it. He starts sweating cold, imagining that he has always made ramen with love, but actually doesn't know much about cooking. He is aware that the amount of water will rely on his intuition, and the first step is to put the noodles and seasoning into the boiling water. After that comes the cooking time of 4 minutes and 30 seconds. He times it based on his heartbeat, which is 60 beats per minute, so counting 270 beats will be ideal. Little by little, he counts until finally reaching the crucial point. He knows that at this moment, it is necessary to leave the noodles in the air to make them firm and elastic, and is aware it would have been perfect with kimchi, but being in the demon realm, that is almost impossible. With nowhere else to turn, he says he did his best and has no regrets. Gisyuk's Sincerity Ramen is finally ready, scoring 90 points in flavor, 24 in carbohydrates, 18 in protein, 20 in calcium, and 20 in fat. They watch the pot and decide to taste it, eager to know how it tastes. After tasting, they are silent for a few seconds, and everyone feels something completely different, as the flavor seems like pure love because it is so delicious. Nari shouts that it is really delicious, and Gu questions if humans always eat that well. The MC admits he is also surprised and asks them to finish the food first. After emptying the pot, the little monster has a full belly from eating so much. Gisyuk, embarrassed, asks if they like the food, and Do-woon asks him to say what he wants. He is confused by the question, and the MC explains that the food was so delicious that he even felt bad eating it for free, so he asks to say anything, and if possible, he will do it. The little bald man starts sweating cold, not knowing if he can really ask for something. He immediately bows down, asking to be taught to become a powerful hunter. Dawoon is confused, as that was unexpected, and Giseok explains that the MC is the strongest hunter he has ever met, shouting that he is good at making other dishes, even has a certificate, and that his father had a small chicken shop, so he understands frying. He says this, but deep down knows that the part about being good at other dishes is a lie, although it is true he understands frying. He then comments that passing through the gates is very troublesome because of supplies. The same applies to clothing, and for that reason, he wants to be an assistant. He also offers to pay for the lessons, as he wishes to be promoted in rank learning from him. Dawoon says he is curious about one thing and asks why he attacked Nari and if it was because of some reward. The bald man is confused by the question and asks if the Nari he is talking about is the mechanical creature. At this moment, the MC asks for silence, as the girl believes she belongs to the Coco tribe, and therefore they must follow the game. He is surprised as he did not know this, and replies that the matter is unfortunately private, and therefore cannot be shared. He then begins to shout, saying he does not need a reward, the same applying to Nari, as all he wants is to pass the hunter promotion exam, and therefore nothing else matters. Dawoon asks if it's serious and tells him to get up. He doesn't understand the question, and the MC says he ate a delicious meal and therefore wants to have a training fight first. Giseok becomes emotional and thanks from the heart. At that moment, Nari asks to be allowed to train, as she needs to overcome the fear of putting out a huge fire. The hunter jokes, saying she forgot that the only powerful one there is the MC, and he himself is not weak at all. Dawoon then points to the side and asks if he can break the stone that is right next to him. The bald guy gets upset, as he immediately recognized that it is the dark blue stone, and, in fact, it is many times harder than diamond. Dawoon asks if that means he can't, and he responds that it might be a little difficult, as it would require at least an extremely high rank. Before he can even finish his sentence, a huge explosion occurs in the direction of the stone, leaving him in shock without understanding what the hell happened. It was Neri, using one of her lighter and more confident powers, calling the bald uncle to ask to have a training fight. Now, a bit about awakened Giseok. He is a highly promising hunter. He awakened his powers around the age of 8, and considering that most awaken at the end of adolescence, it is an exceptionally rare case. There was a testing field for rank B hunters, and the boy, with his flame powers, charged forward, defeating his opponents, as he was someone talented who grew at the speed of light, and before even turning 20, was promoted to a rank B hunter. It was a meteoric rise, and fame followed him, as he dreamed of becoming the greatest hunter. Those were days when nothing seemed lacking, except for a defect in his hair. He saw some strands in his hand, which drove him to despair, as it came too early. Then, at the age when most people begin to awaken, he started going bald. It began at his crown, which thinned at 20-something years old, and soon after the hairline was receding into an M shape. He tried all treatments and visited every imaginable clinic, even offering as much money as necessary for another transplant. But the doctors always warned that it would fall out again, so it was better to give up as soon as possible. Giseok always cried, as it was all useless, because his impressive appearance and natural talent overshadowed it all, and eventually, he lost his shine. In one of the tests, he was defeated and thus disqualified. As a result, his growth as a hunter also stagnated. He was alone, defeated in his house, and while watching TV, an incident was announced. They reported that liquid metal is an extremely rare substance, even in the demon world, and someone accidentally poured it on his head, and his hair simply grew back, even though he was 90 years old. This news caught Giseok's attention, and only then did he realize how mysterious the demon world is. On TV, it was reported about the rest of the liquid metal that developed mechanical beings, but he was outraged hearing this, as all he wanted was just a cure for baldness, which would truly help humanity. A few days later, he received notification that the Institute's masterpiece, the mechanical creature, had fallen into the demon world. He immediately ran, since there are no laws in the demon world and therefore whoever finds it can keep it, which filled him with confidence, as he was determined to find it and pour the liquid on his head. However, all this was useless, as he was defeated again and again by the little girl, who couldn't stop laughing because it was too funny to win. The MC admits to being worried as he didn't land a single clean hit. Because of this, he warns that if things continue this way, there won't be much he can do to help, and the bald guy, worried, said he will do his best to succeed. Next, the MC's wardrobe is finished, and he finds it very sturdy, and when he looks to the side, he imagines that Giseok is very brave since he is getting beaten every day and still hasn't given up. This makes the MC wonder why the boy has so much energy and believes it is because he took off the wig. Gu says that the flame ability isn't bad, even though it's sad not to defeat a little child. The MC responds that Nari isn't exactly an ordinary child. He launches another full-strength attack and hits the ground squarely, but she dodges without him noticing, and only then does he realize she shifted into a liquid state. Then she returns to her human form and lands a solid kick to his face, throwing him with full force against the mountain. After that, she laughs again, saying she is no longer afraid of fire thanks to him. Giseok can only wonder if this is the limit of a rank B, since he has no techniques to use, but he gets up because he doesn't want to back down, being a failed guy who can't allow himself to be defeated. And so, the big kid who doesn't know how to quit tries once more, asking her to go all out. He barely says this, and notices bleeding from his nose. The MC approaches and asks how many days he has been in the demon world. Giseok replies that it's been 9 days, and he orders him to return to the human world, since staying longer in the demonic realm at that level would kill him from demonic energy. The bald guy agrees, saying it unfortunately makes sense. At this moment, Dawoon says he has the potential to be a rank A if he fully dedicates himself, and although he is happy to hear this, Giseok becomes depressed again, recounting that he failed the rank A test for 6 consecutive years, and as far as he knows, anyone who fails the same test for more than 3 years has no hope. The MC disagrees, having seen the potential for growth since the mana hole isn't fully developed yet, and so he asks him not to give up. He begins to cry happily hearing this, and Dawoon only asks that, when he returns, he ensures the demonic energy is properly cleaned. After that, the portal opens, and Giseok asks if he needs anything else besides ramen. The MC responds that for now, it's fine. The bald guy teases Nari, telling her to train well because next time he will win, and he also asks if anyone has seen his wig. Dawoon responds that he doesn't know exactly where it is, and he asks not to worry, even though he has no idea where it could be. After the portal closes, Gu asks if everything will be okay. The MC doesn't understand the question, and he explains that if Giseok betrays them, things could become dangerous, like other hunters appearing after them. Dawoon asks what he thinks about this, since he can read people's memories. He replies that the boy definitely takes training seriously to become strong, and the story about the baldness being true made him like the boy. The MC says he agrees, and that he is someone worth investing in. Nari notices the MC talking to Gu and asks if he really understands what a monster says. He responds that, regarding Gu, he can understand him. He also reveals that he built a wardrobe following the pigeon's advice. However, he notices that the room is dark and decides to make a window. But when he looks to the side, he sees a laser shot, and then the new window is made by Nari herself. Dawoon begins to think that the little girl likes light and that they will need a source of light so it isn't dark at night, but she asks where they will get it. He says there are things called glowing stones that shine in the dark, and if they stick some to the ceiling, they will shine properly. Gu is surprised to hear this and asks if he knows where these stones are. He replies that he does, knowing they can be found in volcanic zones. Gu closes his eyes, saying volcanic zones are among the most dangerous areas for hunters, and when he opens them, he reveals that he used to live there. The MC wonders if the creature would like to return to its hometown, even though his expression isn't good. At this moment, Nari grabs his cheeks, wanting to know what they are talking about, and says that Gu seems strange, as if he is upset. The MC explains that he is worried about them going to the volcanic zone, and, for that reason, said he would go alone while the two stay at the house. She warns that she will go along, making it clear that she has lost her fear of fire, and, for that reason, also wants to get closer to the volcanoes. He is surprised, since she overcame her fear of fire quickly. Then he asks Gu what he will do, and he responds that he will also go since he has some things to do in the area. With everything decided, The MC says that he will first make some equipment for the volcanic zone. Meanwhile, the mandrakes are playing with Giseok's wig. In another location, in the volcanic zone, the flames are scalding and a colossal monster appears with tears streaming from his eyes. Gu talks about the volcanic region, which is one of the 3 areas most avoided in the demon world by hunters. The volcanic ash tears at people's skin, and the toxic gases and demonic energy make breathing deadly. He concludes that it is such a dangerous place that almost nothing about it is known to humans, and upon seeing Nari playing with the lava, he questions what the hell she is doing. The MC comments that she is probably playing with fire. Gu agrees, saying that the girl is originally a mechanical creature, and therefore, it is normal that she is not harmed by fire. But his real doubt is about the MC, since he does not know how he is unharmed, and so he questions what he really is. Dawoon responds that he is a chimera hunter. The pigeon says he imagined that and asks if, by any chance, chimera hunters do not look like monsters. He replies that he used to be one, but after regenerating, he appeared in human form again and decides to ask Gu if it is okay to be near the two, since he is a monster near 2 hunters. He responds that it is not bad and even finds it fun to have someone to talk to, besides the 2 not seeming like bad people. The MC feels pleased hearing this. Nari finally comes out of the lava and immediately asks the MC if he is talking to the pigeon again, since she herself would like to do that. Dawoon asks if, by any chance, she is not curious about who he really is, and she smiles, saying that he is a native of the demon world, just like she is. The monster finds this funny, since only he is native to that place. They continue walking, and Gu comments that the luminous stones are probably nearby, where the lava erupts. At that moment, Nari looks up at the volcano and is happy, as she is getting close to the objective. They go to the highest point, and the MC comments that, indeed, the luminous stones are there, but he notices something strange, wondering if the monsters inside the volcano are fire frogs. To make it worse, he asks if one of them is crying. At that moment, Nari points further ahead and says that probably the female died while moving as she was carrying the eggs on her back. Gu explains that female fire frogs carry their eggs on their backs, and only females during reproduction have sunken backs, and concludes that since the female died, all the eggs will die as well, besides the crater's temperature being too high for the eggs to survive. The little girl starts crying, realizing that the fire frog is sad because its friend died. The MC watches and jumps into the volcano, asking the 2 to wait. After entering the volcano, the enormous frog looks back, and Gu shouts for him not to get close, as the fire frog is extremely sensitive. However, it is useless, as the monster gathers its power and fires an insane blast of fire toward the MC, who with only 1 finger raised, approaches and touches the frog's head, leaving it confused about what happened. In the next second, the monster falls to the side, and Dawoon explains that he injected a paralyzing toxin, using only a little so it would wake up soon. Nari, worried, keeps shouting, wanting to know if he is okay, and the MC responds that he is, also explaining that he has fire frog cells inside him. He considers that nothing can be done about the already dead female, but believes the story is different about the eggs, and because of that, he uses his line ability to catch them. At this moment, the monster wakes up and only then realizes that the eggs were tied to its back. The MC explains that he tied them well and that the eggs will probably grow healthy. Then something catches his attention since the fire frog went to the dead female, probably saying a final goodbye. Then he stomps firmly on the ground and makes a huge leap, even leaving Nari surprised. The monster falls beside her, and they stare at each other for a second. But shortly after, the fire frog continues hopping in another direction. She shouts to the MC that the monster looked at her as if thanking her, and he just smiles, saying that it was probably exactly that. Then he asks them to go down since they need to explore quickly to collect the luminous stones. She gets excited, saying she will do it quickly so they can return home afterwards. Immediately she goes toward one, and, with a smile on her face, holds the huge glowing stone. Dawoon warns her to be careful since, if it falls on her foot, it could hurt her. After collecting a certain amount, the MC asks if Gu is okay since he seems tired. He responds that he used to play lightly with the stones, but did not know it would be difficult at that size. The MC says there is no need to help since he has things to do in that area, and also asks if he is not going to give the presents to his friends since he saw him carrying some. The little pigeon feels embarrassed, saying that monsters don't have friends and that the presents are just something to leave behind. The MC finds it cute to see such a shy little monster and asks if he misses his own kind since intelligent monsters are probably different. Gu, still embarrassed, replies that he does not miss anyone and only regrets not being able to say goodbye when he left. The MC asks if he abandoned the group, and he responds that there are good things about gaining intelligence, like when he was eyeing a crimson scorpion, but one of his partners simply snapped him up. He tried to question why he was suddenly eaten, but knows it's not worth speaking to someone who doesn't respond. He says that in the land of one-eyed monkeys, he would have felt less empty if he hadn't known the human language, and that's why he left the group to live alone. Gu continues trying to help remove the luminous stones, while saying that his kind probably doesn't even know he disappeared. Suddenly, a stone falls and he sees something inside the hole. At the same moment, Nari says she heard a noise and shows a monster egg, although she does not know what species it is. They notice the egg is cracking, and the MC comments that the baby inside must be able to break the shell on its own since that way it grows strong and healthy. Nari suggests taking the egg with them since, if left inside the volcano, it would become a roasted egg, but Gu does not like that since the egg could hatch at any moment. Dawoon is thoughtful since he knows of a perfect place to use as a nest nearby, and therefore says they have no choice but to take it. Gu asks if he is sure since Nari could be in danger, and the MC assures that everything will be fine since he will make sure of it. Only then does the monster agree, since he knows his strength. After returning home, everyone is happy to have arrived quickly, and they come face to face with Gisyuk preparing food, and the MC is surprised to see him so fast in the demon realm. The hunter does not waste time and asks to carry the luggage. Dawoon finds it strange but still hands over the backpack, also warning that it is heavy. Gisyuk takes it but can barely hold it since he found it extremely heavy. The MC looks closely at his face and tells him to look up, since he wants to know why he looks strange, and asks if he was beaten somewhere, since he didn't realize he was the type to get beaten. Gisyuk feels awkward since Nari hits him all the time in that demon realm. Then he runs off, saying that the MC must be hungry and will prepare the food. After that, Dawoon takes one of the luminous stones and starts shaping it. Nari approaches and asks what he is doing. He responds that he will create a lamp and is cutting and shaping some parts of the glowing stone, as he intends to put it on the ceiling. She is surprised hearing this and, with sparkling eyes, says that Dawoon seems very intelligent as he knows a lot of things, besides being good at explaining. In addition, she says that he also seems very kind, as he helped the fire frog, and compares him to her father. MC takes the opportunity to joke and asks if her father is doing well in the coconut tribe. She feels embarrassed and answers that he is fine. Yes. After that, the sun sets and Gu relaxes, even though he doesn't find it as good as the volcanic area, but he feels his body melting the same way. Only then does he look back and see a giant shadow. It was the mandrakes who, working as a team, leap over each other and use their technique triple cozy formation supreme move. However, it has no effect on the monster's enormous belly, and he stands up startled, asking what the hell is wrong with those plants. Nari gets irritated, wanting to know why they are fighting, and MC comments that the mandrakes are probably angry because Gu invaded their territory. At that moment, Gisyuk appears, announcing that the food will have a sweet and sour and addictive taste, and that it is popular among children. He shows the yubuchabop, which is a little fried tofu pocket. He imagines it is easy to make, yet still presentable, and asks everyone to eat freely. However, MC asks first to answer what happened to his face. He feels a bit embarrassed, not knowing what to say, and explains that he went to the Hunters Association to register for the promotion exam and encountered some rank A guys. Dawoon asks if he was provoked for being rejected and got into a fight to the point of being beaten. He answers yes, and that people even asked not to waste time reevaluating since he apparently lost his pride along with his hair. MC takes a deep breath and asks if he recently shaved his head, as he isn't completely bald. However, saying this makes his mind race, since whenever someone talks about his baldness, he gets depressed. Because of this, Dawoon asks when the next promotion exam will be. He answers that it will be in 60 days. MC warns that they will need to do special training to have time, and he becomes excited, wanting to know if something like that really exists, and that he will work hard to become stronger. MC starts by saying that from that moment on, he will take over the task of washing the dishes in place of Nari and is also in charge of the luminous stones, since they are covered in volcanic ash. So he must wash them too. He is concerned about all of this and asks if it is really special training, but MC tells him to do whatever he wants, since if he wants to continue living as a rank B, there is no problem. Then he calls the kids to join, and everyone heads to the river. Giseok feels down and begins collecting the dishes, imagining that MC must have a plan in mind, and while doing this, imagines that everyone thinks he is a natural genius. But he knows he is just a man who reached rank B through pure effort, and there is nothing genius about him. He knows that a man who has nothing without diligence and perseverance, when he trusts someone, trusts completely. He knows this as a man who tried 7 times and failed all 7, but is someone who knows everything. Meanwhile, at the river, MC is fishing with Nari, and she begins to complain that she isn't catching anything. On the other side of the river, Giseok is trying to wash the dishes, but constantly complains that the fish are attacking, and aquatic monsters are his weakness. MC laments this, and asks what the point of having mana is if it isn't used, since he just needs to put the shield around his body. He answers that he continued practicing during training, but couldn't do well. MC decides to test something, and picking up a luminescent stone, he hands it to the little bald guy, saying it is just to try to lift it. He thinks it is a simple task, but when trying to hold it, he feels a strange sensation and immediately drops it on the ground. He asks if the stone might have demonic energy, since he cannot put strength into his arm. Dawoon replies that the shining stones contain condensed demonic energy, and that demonic energy is a primordial and unrefined energy, which is why it is necessary to expel refined mana to use it correctly. Then, he points to Giseok, saying that there is mana accumulated throughout his body, and that he is just a bit clumsy in handling it. Then, with a simple touch, he feels all the mana in his body and asks what he is seeing. The MC explains that the path must have formed and asks to let the mana flow. Giseok watches the power overflowing in his arm and decides to try to grab the stone. He uses all the strength he has until he finally manages to lift it above his head. This achievement makes him extremely happy, to the point of saying that probably washing the dishes and cleaning the stones were all meticulously calculated by the MC as part of the mana training. The MC confirms this and asks please to take care of the dishes while focusing on the circulation of mana. He, with a smile on his face, replies that he will do it immediately, since he is a man who can polish anything. After that, at nightfall, a luminous stone is installed in the house, and the inside becomes a bit brighter with everyone sleeping. Giseok cannot stop dreaming of becoming a rank A, unlike Dawoon, who is sleeping peacefully. Meanwhile, Gu is not able to sleep well, having taken a nap in the afternoon, until he hears something and sees Nari walking in the middle of the night through the house, and wonders what the hell she is trying to do so late at night. That's all, folks. If you enjoy the video, subscribe and hit the bell. Thanks.